Officer Carter sees a calm black woman behind the wheel and thinks she's just another target, another life to crush under his badge. But what he doesn't know, Talia Porter isn't just anyone. She's a CIA agent, and she's been waiting for this moment. Stick around, because when Internal Affairs rolls in and Hat Badge Caught explodes online, Carter's badge won't protect him. It'll bury him. Justice isn't knocking on the door, it's already inside. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time you found this video. Don't miss out on future content by subscribing now. The street lamp casts an amber glow across Officer James Carter's polished badge as he savors the familiar rush of power. His cruiser's emergency lights paint the expensive sedan ahead in strobing red and blue. Perfect setup, perfect target, just like the hundreds before. Officer Carter's fingers drum against his holster as he approaches the driver's window, his practiced sneer already in place. "License and registration," Officer Carter barks, relishing how his shadow looms over the vehicle. The woman behind the wheel meets his gaze with unsettling composure, almost seeming to study him. Something in her calm demeanor makes his throat tighten, but he shoves the unease aside. He's the one in control here. Always has been. The planted evidence weighs heavy in his pocket as Officer Michael Sullivan positions himself by the trunk, their choreographed routine unfolding like clockwork. The helicopter circling overhead bathes them all in harsh white light, casting strange, shifting shadows across the pavement. Carter feels exposed, but his inner voice steadies him. "You're untouchable. No one's ever caught you before." "Is there a problem, Officer Carter?" The woman's voice carries an edge of authority that sets off warning bells. She hasn't broken eye contact once, hasn't shown an ounce of the fear he's accustomed to inspiring. His hand instinctively moves to his badge, thumb tracing the silver surface that's witnessed countless similar stops. "Step out of the vehicle, now!" Officer Carter's command comes out sharper than intended. The woman complies with fluid grace, her movements precise and controlled. As she emerges, Sullivan tenses. They both notice her perfect posture, her calculating gaze. This isn't their usual target. Phones popped up like prairie dogs. "Yo, this is live!" someone shouted from a nearby car. A teenager laughed. "Cop's about to get cooked." Nervous glances shot between Carter and Sullivan as the crowd swelled, voices murmuring, laughter rippling through the night. "I said hands where I can see them!" Carter advances, trying to reclaim control of the situation. The woman raises her hands slowly, deliberately, a slight smile playing at her lips. The planted drugs feel like they're burning a hole in his pocket. "Agent Talia Porter, CIA," she says, her smile sharp. Carter freezes. Sullivan curses under his breath. Talia steps closer, her voice low but lethal. "You've spent years hunting the wrong people. Tonight, it's your turn." Carter's voice cracks. "You can't do this," Talia's eyes flash. "Watch me." Carter's world tilts sideways as Sullivan mutters a curse behind him. His lucky silver badge suddenly feels cold against his chest. More phones emerge from the growing crowd of stopped vehicles, their red recording lights blinking like tiny judgment signals. The sound of approaching sirens cuts through the night air, but they're not the backup he'd expect. Internal Affairs vehicles screech into view, their distinctive markings sending ice through Carter's veins. His inner voice, once so confident, now whispers, "They've been watching. They knew. They've been waiting for this." Within hours, #BadgeCaught trends across social media. The helicopter footage plays on every news channel, showing Carter's face twisted with realization as his perfect setup crumbles. His badge, once a symbol of untouchable authority, now feels like a brand of shame. Type "caught" in the comments if you've ever witnessed justice catch up to someone who thought they were above the law. Officer James Carter stands frozen under the merciless spotlight, his carefully constructed world of power and corruption beginning to unravel. The question isn't if he'll fall, but how many others he'll take down with him. His fingers trace his badge one last time, remembering all the stops, all the setups, all the lives he's ruined, never imagining he'd end up on the other side of justice. Have you ever felt invincible, only to watch your empire crumble in an instant? The night air grows thick with tension as more internal affairs vehicles arrive. Officer James Carter's perfect setup has become his perfect undoing, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he knows. This is only the beginning of his fall. Officer James Carter stares at his computer screen, the fluorescent lights of the precinct casting harsh shadows across his face. His badge, usually a source of pride, feels like a hot coal against his chest. 20 minutes of frantically searching through the department's database has revealed an unsettling truth. Talia Porter isn't just any target. Multiple commendations, high-level clearances, and connections that make his stomach churn. The familiar rhythm of the precinct feels different today. Every shuffle of paper, every squeak of a chair makes Officer James Carter flinch. His partner Sullivan's nervous energy radiates from the desk across the aisle, where crumpled papers overflow from his trash bin. 20 years of carefully constructed power, built on countless frames and routine stops, suddenly feels as fragile as the papers Sullivan is desperately destroying. "Hey, Carter," young Officer Keller's voice carries across the room. "That stop this morning, something felt off." Officer James Carter's fingers tighten around his coffee cup, knuckles white. The kid's questioning gaze mirrors the doubts he's trying to suppress. A memory surfaces, his first year on the force, watching his training officer plant evidence. "Sometimes justice needs a helping hand," the old man had said, passing Officer James Carter his first badge. The precinct's archive room provides no refuge. Pulling out files from previous stops, Officer James Carter sees the pattern with new eyes. Hundreds of stops, hundreds of frames, all following the same playbook. Dr. Marshall's study on institutional bias in traffic stops, the one he'd dismissed last month during sensitivity training, echoes in his mind. Systems of power perpetuate themselves through normalized patterns of behavior. A text from Sullivan makes Officer James Carter's phone buzz. "Porter's CIA, deep connections. Need to talk." His heart rate spikes. The last time they'd targeted someone with connections, that judge's son 5 years ago, Captain Reynolds had smoothed things over. But the captain's office has been dark all morning, calls unanswered. Young voices drift through the window. A group of rookies huddle around a phone, watching something. Officer James Carter's blood runs cold when he catches a glimpse of the screen. Dashcam footage from this morning, already uploaded to YouTube. #CorruptCopsTrends on the sidebar. "Have you seen this?" Sullivan bursts into the archive room, face ashen. "Porter's got friends in internal affairs. They're reopening cases. All of them." Officer James Carter's hands shake as he reaches for his badge, the metal no longer gleaming but tarnished with the weight of 2 decades of lies. The sound of approaching footsteps sends both officers scrambling. Through the archive room's frosted glass, they watch as internal affairs investigators sweep through the precinct, boxes in hand. Young Keller points them toward the evidence room, his earlier questioning look hardened into something like resolve. Officer James Carter slumps in his chair, the weight of realization crushing. Every frame, every false report, every routine stop. They weren't maintaining order. They were feeding a monster. A monster that Talia Porter might finally expose. His phone buzzes again. A department-wide email. Mandatory meeting tomorrow. Internal affairs audit of all traffic stops from the past 5 years. Officer James Carter's empire of control, built on decades of systematic abuse, begins to crumble like a house of cards. Type, truth hurts. If you've ever watched a system you trusted reveal its dark side. Officer James Carter stared at his reflection in the precinct bathroom mirror, his fingers trembling as they traced the edges of his silver badge. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, making the dark circles under his eyes more pronounced. 12 hours since the traffic stop, and the walls were already closing in. The rhythmic click of dress shoes against linoleum made him flinch. Through the mirror, he watched internal affairs investigators move through the hallway like sharks circling prey. Their presence sent ice through his veins. They never came in packs unless they were hunting. His phone buzzed. Sullivan again. "They're interviewing Keller right now," the text read. "Kid wouldn't even look at me in the break room." Carter's stomach churned. Keller was their newest officer, eager to please, always hovering nearby during their special stops. Now that eagerness felt dangerous. The badge felt heavier with each passing hour. Carter had polished it that morning out of habit, but now its shine seemed accusatory. He tucked it into his shirt pocket, trying to hide from its gleam. Walking back to his desk, he noticed the usual station banter had been replaced by hushed conversations that died when he approached. Officers who used to greet him with backslaps and inside jokes now found reasons to be elsewhere. The isolation was suffocating. His computer screen flickered to life, and there she was, Talia Porter's CIA credentials staring back at him. Her eyes in the photo held the same defiance they'd shown during the traffic stop. "You've picked the wrong target," she'd said. The words echoed in his head now, a prophecy fulfilling itself hour by hour. Sullivan appeared at his desk, reeking of whiskey at 2 p.m. "They're pulling our stop records," he slurred, eyes wild. "All of them, Carter. 5 years' worth." The color drained from Carter's face. 5 years of routine stops that were anything but routine. 5 years of planted evidence and falsified reports, all unraveling. "Keep your voice down," Carter hissed. But it was too late. Heads turned, and he caught Johnson from narcotics watching them with poorly concealed disgust. Another ally gone. The security cameras in the corners seemed to track his every move. Carter found himself counting them. 1, 2, 3, 4, wondering how many hours of footage they were combing through, how many mistakes he'd made in front of their unblinking eyes. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a news alert. CIA agent's traffic stop raises questions about department's history. Carter's hands went numb. Below the headline was a still from dashboard camera footage, showing him approaching Porter's car, his face clear as day. "Have you seen who Porter's representing now?" Sullivan's whisper carried the weight of doom. "The Martinez case? The Williams stop? Even that mess with the Thompson family. They're all filing to reopen their cases. She's not just coming for us, Carter. She's burning the whole system down." The badge pressed against Carter's chest like a brand. He remembered how proud he'd been when he'd first pinned it on, how invincible it had made him feel. Now it was just evidence, another nail in a coffin being built around him in real time. A young officer, Roberts, maybe, hurried past Carter's desk, clutching a stack of files. Their eyes met briefly, And Carter saw something worse than anger or disgust. Fear. The kind of fear he'd inspired in countless civilians over the years, now reflected back at him by one of his own. The day crawled toward evening, marked by the steady parade of officers being called into the conference room for questioning. Each time the door opened, Carter felt his pulse spike, waiting for his name to be called. Sullivan had disappeared an hour ago, mumbling something about calling his lawyer. The last text he'd sent read, "Maybe we should have listened to Keller when he said Porter seemed different." Carter wanted to laugh at the irony. Their rookie had shown better judgment than either of them. The badge pulsed against his chest like a second heartbeat, each beat a reminder of how far he'd fallen. When had power become more important than protection? When had the shield become a weapon? As the sun set outside his window, Carter watched Internal Affairs escort Keller from the conference room. The young officer's eyes were red, his shoulders slumped with either relief or guilt. He walked past Carter's desk without a glance, but Carter noticed the wire glinting at his collar. The house of cards wasn't just swaying anymore. It was falling, and Carter was trapped inside. Type badge falls if you've ever watched power crumble. Officer Michael Sullivan stares at the cold metal table in the interrogation room, his hands trembling as they trace the worn edges of his badge, the same badge that had given him power for 15 years. The precinct's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, highlighting every bead of sweat. Through the two-way mirror, he catches fragmented glimpses of his reflection, a man he barely recognizes anymore. The door creaks open. Carter's voice echoes from down the hall, desperate and broken. "I'll tell you everything. Just let me make a deal." Sullivan's stomach churns. His former partner, his brother in blue, crumbling like a house of cards. His phone buzzes incessantly. Hat Cops Crumble is trending on YouTube. The body cam footage from their attempted frame-up of Porter has gone viral, frame by frame, exposing their calculated malice. Sullivan watches the likes climb. 500,000. 600,000. His empire of lies dissolving in real time. "Your partner's talking, Sullivan." Internal Affairs. Inspector Matthews slides a manila folder across the table. 15 years of planted evidence, racial profiling, false arrests. How many lives did you destroy? Sullivan's badge catches the light, mocking him. His fingers trace the numbers. 4571, remembering how proudly he'd polished it that morning, believing himself untouchable. Now it feels like a burning brand against his chest. The security footage plays on the laptop before him. There he is, approaching Porter's car with practiced arrogance, the planted drugs ready in his pocket. "You don't know who you're dealing with," his recorded voice sneers. Porter's calm smile haunts him now. She'd known exactly who she was dealing with. "Type badge falls if you've ever witnessed justice in action," scrolls across his phone's screen as the video hits 1 million views. Former victims are coming forward, their stories flooding social media. Each notification feels like another nail in his coffin. The evidence mounts. Lieutenant Keller's secret recordings of their strategy meetings, witness statements spanning decades, financial records showing unexplained deposits. Sullivan's carefully constructed world unravels thread by thread. His hands shake as he reaches for the badge. The metal feels cold, dead. With trembling fingers, he unfastens it from his uniform. The clatter as it hits the table echoes like a gunshot through the room. His voice cracks. Across the room, Porter stands watching, that same knowing smile playing at her lips. The truth he's been running from crashes over him like a tidal wave. "I'll talk." The handcuffs click shut around his wrists. That sound he's heard thousands of times before, but never like this. Never from this side. Officers he'd worked with for years lead him through the precinct, past desk after desk of turned faces. Share this moment to show that no one is above justice. Hatched cops crumble flashes across screens throughout the building as Sullivan takes his final walk through the precinct, not as an officer, but as a criminal. His last glimpse of Porter shows her speaking with the chief, files spread before them, the beginning of a department-wide purge he helped trigger. Sullivan realizes, as the police car door closes behind him, that his greatest fear wasn't getting caught. It was facing who he'd truly become. The badge lies abandoned on the interrogation room table, its surface reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights, a symbol of power transformed into evidence of corruption. Officer Michael Sullivan's reign of injustice ends not with a bang, but with the quiet click of handcuffs and the viral spread of truth he can no longer contain. Drop one if you believe justice always prevails. Share this story to expose corruption everywhere. James Carter stares at the small TV mounted in his prison cell, his fingers trembling as CNN broadcasts yet another expose about the corruption scandal that's become known as #BadgeBetrayal. His department-issued badge, once gleaming with authority, now sits in an evidence locker, each scratch and dent a testament to the power he abused. Former Officer James Carter, along with his partner Michael Sullivan, faces multiple federal charges in what prosecutors are calling one of the most extensive cases of systematic police corruption in recent history. The anchor's voice echoes off the concrete walls. The familiar weight of the badge is gone, replaced by the cold metal of handcuffs that had clicked around his wrists just days ago. James Carter's empire hasn't just crumbled. It's been ground to dust beneath the weight of justice. He watches Agent Talia Porter on screen, her testimony calm and measured, each word another nail in his coffin. I observed a pattern of targeted harassment and false arrests spanning nearly a decade. Porter's voice fills his cell. Officer James Carter and Officer Sullivan didn't just attempt to frame me. They perfected their technique through years of practice on countless innocent civilians. Carter's stomach churns as security footage plays, showing him planting evidence during traffic stops. His own arrogant smirk haunts him now. The sound of his cell door's daily inspections has become a metronome marking time in his new reality. Lieutenant Keller's testimony proves especially damning. Officer James Carter created a culture of corruption that infected our entire department. We failed our community. We failed our oath. Sitting on his narrow bunk, Carter picks up a newspaper. His booking photo stares back at him, alongside headlines about the reform legislation his case has sparked. The prison jumpsuit he now wears feels like a fitting punishment for the uniform he dishonored. Type "Justice" if you believe no badge should shield corruption, scrolls across the bottom of the news coverage. In the silence of his cell, James Carter finally speaks his truth. I thought the badge made me untouchable. But it was never about the badge. It was about the trust we broke, the lives we ruined, the system we poisoned. Maybe my greatest service to law enforcement will be as an example of what happens when power corrupts. The sound of protests outside the prison walls carries faintly through his window. Signs bearing #BadgeBetrayal wave in the evening air. His former badge, now tagged as Evidence Number 471, will soon be displayed in the Police Academy's new Ethics Training Center. A permanent reminder that justice comes for everyone, even those sworn to uphold it. Share this story to remind every officer that a badge is a responsibility, not a weapon, the news anchor concludes. James Carter closes his eyes, finally understanding the weight of truth. His badge didn't give him power. It gave him responsibility, and he failed it completely. Sometimes he realizes the greatest service to justice is becoming the cautionary tale that prevents future corruption. Drop a 2 if you believe true justice knows no badge, appears as the final headline scrolls past. In the end, James Carter's legacy isn't the power he wielded, but the reform his downfall inspired. His badge, once a symbol of authority, now serves as a permanent reminder that justice eventually comes for everyone, even those who once thought themselves above it.